Our next speaker, Zuzanna Brocka, University of Pavia, Italy, Cybersecurity and Battery Energy Storage Systems, Legal Challenges and Implications for Energy Justice. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will speak na stojąco, standing up. And somehow my presentation is connected to what Federico told you about. My presentation addresses a dimension that is often overlooked, and this is the issue of cybersecurity, particularly as battery energy storage systems are concerned. This presentation stems from a particular case that I followed as a barrister because I am also an Italian barrister. So my client won the Max auction, about which Federico was talking before, for the construction of 9 megawatts of battery energy storage systems. Subsequently, the client decided to entrust an Italian company with two important agreements. The first one is the EPC agreement for the construction of the battery system, and the second one is the operation and maintenance. While the first one is the agreement that concerns 1 year of period, the construction, the operation and maintenance concerns the period of nearly 15 years, so whole the period of operation and maintenance. And why this was so important? It was important because, as Federico told, subsequently to the Max auction, there is a kind of undertaking from the owner to provide the system operator, the Nita Esterna, with the promised capacity. In our case, it was 9 megawatts. And one of the most difficult chapters of our contract was the issue of cybersecurity. The agreements were signed last week, and hopefully in 1 year we will see this BESS 9 megawatts working near the storage plants. So my key argument is simple. There can be no energy transition, just energy transition, without digital security. Let me begin with a reminder of what energy justice means, just briefly. It refers to fairness in the distribution of energy benefits and burdens, so-called distributive justice. Then we have the concept of procedural justice that is based on inclusive participation in the decision-making process. And finally, so-called recognition justice, or the recognition of rights of vulnerable users. And BESS are critical for this discussion because, also as Federico observed, they make the renewable energy reliable and enable also at the same time the grid flexibility. So in a sense, they are the hidden heart of this transition towards the green economy. But at the same time, as they become more digitalized, they become also more vulnerable. And this creates new risks that are not only social, technical, but also legal. So what are BESS? BESS are, of course, the containers, to say it simply, but they are software-defined infrastructures. They are connected through IoT devices, and they're constantly exchanging data with the system. And this digitization is, of course, essential for efficiency and for the grid operation, but it opens the door to cyber vulnerabilities. Imagine, for example, a hacker manipulating algorithms that control energy flows, or just disrupting data communication between batteries and the grid. Such action could destabilize networks or even cause regional blackouts. Of course, beyond the technical damage that is obvious, the loss of trust in energy systems could slow down the transition itself, especially in communities that are already skeptical about the transition itself. So at the European level, we have the NIES directive that sets out security obligation for essential energy entities. And in our case, in the case of the contract I'm talking to you about, my client was the company operating the underground gas storage system. This company undertook also the transition towards the renewable energies. And one of their projects is the construction of this important 9 megawatts BESS. So what does it mean? It means that certain obligations deriving from NIS directive should also be transposed to the supply chain. In our case, the constructor and the operator of the BESS. We have furthermore the Cyber Resilience Act that introduces a security by design approach for all connected products that are implemented in the energy essential infrastructures, potential including also BESS. However, what is striking is the lack of specific BESS standards, and it creates legal uncertainty as regards compliance, monitoring, and of course responsibility. So the key legal question is who is liable for a cyber incident? Is this a manufacturer that is in China, India, or the USA, the operator managing the system, the owner, or the aggregator of the distributed storage units, in our case, Terna? So it is clear that in a highly, sorry, I just need to check because, sorry, just for a moment. So sorry, but my daughter is today alone without me and my husband. Just wanted to see if there's maybe. It's not her. So who is liable for a cyber incident? Manufacturer in another non-EU country, operator, owner, or aggregator. Of course, in our modern markets in which we have the high level of transnational, we have no borders and a high level of digitization, the borders of the liability are unclear. And it is also difficult to set out at the contractual level clear cybersecurity duties. And these ambiguities can lead to gaps in protection, and these gaps can translate into real unequal consequences for citizens and communities. So let us connect this back to the energy justice. A cyber attack on an energy network could affect, in particular, isolated or low-income regions, like, for example, Sardinia in Italy, because they often lack redundancy or advanced protection systems. Moreover, Europe's full dependence on non-EU technology supplies raises questions of energy sovereignty and equity. So cybersecurity becomes a matter of fairness. Again, coming back to the three concepts I taught at the beginning. Distribution means distributive justice means equal protection for all the regions. Procedural justice means the transparent governance of data. Recognition still means protection of vulnerable users and the prioritizing of their needs. So somehow cybersecurity is not only a technical issue like it could seem at the beginning, but it is a justice imperative. So from this perspective, I propose this framework of a cyber energy justice. So the idea is to integrate cybersecurity in energy governance and planning, but from the very beginning, not as a kind of afterthought. And in particular, to address the issue of protection of BESS and recognize the cybersecurity as part of the right to energy. Initially, when I was preparing this presentation, I thought about EU-wide standards. Then recently, I discussed with a representative of the Italian government dealing exclusively with the cybersecurity, and he told me that maybe we should rather think about 10 simple rules on the sub-national level, because we should recognize that for next years to come, we will depend on China and India for this kind of supplies. So we should have few common rules. This, of course, requires collaboration between lawyers, engineers, policymakers, and IT directors. A true, genuine approach. So just to conclude, so battery energy storage systems are necessary to energy transition, but they are also digital target. So what is important is that the law and policy anticipates cyber risks, not only reacts to them. A just transition must be a secure transition, also because the cybersecurity becomes more and more a life security, as we have seen also in the recent case of blackouts in Spain. It's not only about energy, but it's about us, about our way of living currently. So thank you very much for your attention.